had to fix up from the COVID mess caused by China. We had to fix up from that, and we did a good job of doing it. And when we handed back the reins after a rigged election, and when we handed back the reins, the stock market was higher than it was before COVID coming in. So, we did a great job, but we didn't have time to do the big thing, which we're doing now. And it's, it's like a patient is sick. You have to do surgery. Patient is very, very sick. And Joe Biden handed us over a country that was in very serious trouble, economically and in every other way. They let China run away with things. They let other countries run away with things. And maybe worst of all, in a certain way, is what they did at the border. We had people pouring into our country by the millions. Many of them were murderers and drug lords and thieves and people from prisons from all over the world. And there were people from mental institutions, insane asylums. They were taking their mentally insane, and they were dumping them into our country. And I'll tell you, Tom Homan and Kristi Noem are doing a fantastic job in removing them. And now the courts, the Supreme Court just gave us numerous good rulings where we have to be able to get them out. You had other judges trying to take over the system. And think of it, they take over. They want these people coming back, Tren de Aragua from Venezuela, the Venezuela jails.
Now, as Trump goes off on the immigration market, I do want to, pretty much lean into this whole, EU situation where, yes, the EU folded. I mean, they was playing tough, as everybody do, but eventually they all fold. I mean, shout out tariffs.
To be the unholy Trinity tariff alliance going on right now. I guess their goal was to turn the whole world against America, but they're fafoing quick because guess what? When you isolate your market and depend on exporting to the American market, which is the biggest market, the consumer of the world, well, guess what? You essentially forgive all of your leverage. You have no leverage. If you're going to go tit for tat with America in a trade war, America pretty much has nothing to lose because you don't even let them export to you in the first place.
Exactly. I mean, you guys are losing out on sales, billions of dollars on sales, not being able to get into our market. You guys barely took in our products in the first place. The hell we gotta lose? Please tell me, what are we losing? We were the ones in a trade deficit, which means that if we stop selling to y'all, that trade deficit is y'all lost, not ours. Actually, that's back to our gain.
Well, what do you think's going to happen? The EU is deeply dependent on exporting to the American market. They're totally dependent. And so now they basically don't have a choice, and they're caving.
We stand ready to negotiate with the United States. Indeed, we have offered 0 tariffs for industrial goods, as we have successfully done with many other trading partners, because Europe is always ready for a good deal. So we keep it on the table. But we are also prepared to respond through countermeasures and defend our interests.
Last week it was, we will fight these Americans. And now already, a week later.
Yeah, we will fight these Americans to the end. We're going to play our own game. We're going to go to China, even though China don't buy nothing and all they do is sell. I mean, bro, the EU and Canada was singing the same tune, talking about they're going to go to China, trying to scare America. And we're looking at y'all like, well, not only are we your biggest buyer, but guess what? China ain't trying to buy y'all stuff either. They don't want to buy nobody's stuff.
Later, we are open to negotiations. And they're coming with this weak-ass proposal, the same one from 2 weeks ago, 0 tariffs on industrial goods. Yeah, it's not going to work. Not good enough. It's cute to start, but let's talk cars. Let's talk meat. Everyone's always talking about cars. That's the most obvious one. But I think American beef is another great point of conversation. They barely allow it into their markets. And, you'll hear leftoids claim, well, that's bogus. They don't really have tariffs on American meat. They don't have tariffs, maybe. At least not huge tariffs, but they have all kinds of regulations. They claim that American beef is not safe. But really, it's just an excuse. It's protectionism dressed up as regulation. And again, that's the whole point of these tariffs, to open up global markets for American goods, for American producers, to be granted the same opportunities as everybody else.
And it's more than just that. I mean, they'll say that, like I said, they say, oh, our products aren't shit. I mean, well, no, our products are pretty good. Y'all just find any type of error to keep our products out. And that ends. That's going to end. Or like I said, you will lose the biggest consumer in your market.
Europeans can send all kinds of food products to the United States. In fact, Americans love European goods, Italian and French wine,
And we got about 160 y'all in here, man. Do me a favor and double tap that screen and like the video, or the 3 dots up there in the corner. Appreciate the support, guys.
In Scotch, I mean, the list goes on. And well, now maybe it's time for American meat to be allowed into the European markets. And come on, it's obvious why they've created all these regulations to stop it from entering. They don't want American meat in Europe because they know that it's going to blow their product out of the water. And that's really what these tariffs are about. It's not about bringing sweatshops back to America. It's about protecting and prioritizing key American industries. American beef, poultry, steel, automobiles, semiconductors. This is the foundation of the American manufacturing economy. And of course, agriculture. I mean, there's more, but you get what I mean. Those are the core industries that support American families, small towns, and national security.
Yeah, and here's the craziest part. Speaking of agriculture, bro, they have like they have bans or high tariffs on our agricultural products. Yes, high tariffs and bans on agricultural products. We produce a lot of agriculture. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, we have farms everywhere. Trust me. And you're talking about a guy who's in a farming state.
So the goal is to open up European markets and other global markets to American companies, in this case, American ranchers. I mean, just imagine the boom. American ranchers produce the absolute best beef in the world, period. I mean, I know you've got Japanese Wagyu. That's more of a specialty product. I mean, nobody's eating Wagyu every single day. It's way too rich. When it comes to premium steaks, nothing touches American prime. And the demand for this beef should be global. But travel the world.
You can't beat our steak, man. You just can't beat that American steak. But no, for real, though, we have a pretty good steak here. I mean, what steak? I mean, I'm going to be honest. I mean, the steak right now. I mean, come on, bro. Guys, the world, give American agriculture a chance, okay? Don't do us like that. Because look, you F around and find out, and then what? The meat's being bought around the world. Y'all F around and find out our fruits and vegetables and produce are being sold around the world. But these countries don't let that happen. And it would be great if they did, because, I mean, that'd be more money for us. And, I mean, we'll be able to have a better trade deals with them. But that's the problem, though. If y'all don't want to do that, I mean, one, we can always just keep our agriculture. Like, you weren't taking it anyway. And then, two, we can just take the businesses that we can just take the business that we give y'all as well. Like, we don't have to buy y'all agriculture no more. We don't got to buy y'all products no more. If anything, we can just start making it ourselves.
Then it basically doesn't exist because foreign governments have enacted policies to protect their inferior domestic products, essentially tariffs and trade barriers, and Trump is saying no more.
Did you agree to lowering tariffs for any of the countries that you spoke to today? So
what you understand, Jennifer, you have to understand this. We have massive surplus countries that we're dealing with. We have massive deficits. We've got to...
And shout out to my man Hellbat. Fish is better for you. It's not better than steak, but it's better for you. I will not give that up. I'm sorry. I love my steak, but fish is better for you. I will say that. Like, I will go ahead and say that if you live the pescatarian diet, you'll live a lot healthier. You'll live a lot longer if you just go ahead and eat fish only. I will admit that. So shout out Hellbat, though. Shout out my man Hellbat. Appreciate the support, man. Appreciate you for starting us off.
Straighten that out, because you can't continue to be that way. It's been that way for years now, and it can't go on any longer. And we're the piggy bank. We have all the advantages. Forget markets for a second. We have all the advantages. We're going to straighten out. We're going to become a wealthy nation again, wealthy like never before. And we're not going to let other nations that have been ripping us off, whether it's China or the European Union, with all of the European nations that have just it's been like a feast. Look, the European Union was formed for one reason. You know what that was? To rip off the United States.
And so, you know, they could whine, they could play the victim card all they want, but enough is enough. We don't block their key industries, what they do best, right? The Europeans are so proud of all the products they produce, but when you have key industries and what America does best, they can't export it to the world. It's simply unfair. It's not reciprocal. It's a scam. And that right there is what Donald Trump is fighting for, to bring those jobs back, to increase production domestically, and to export across the world. I mean, imagine the jobs that would be created. Imagine the industry that would boom if all of a sudden America's food products were being exported globally. I mean, just the European market, that's like, nearly 400 million people. All Trump is asking is for
the European market, no, that's 700 million people. Yeah, I looked it up a couple of days ago. If we would be able to sell into the European market, that's 700 million people we could provide food to. Yeah, I mean, the demand for American food is going to go up. I mean, and that's going to open up jobs and opportunity here in America. There's a lot more things that would also open up an opportunity if you guys would stop tariffing us or doing these wild ass import bans. I mean, you don't got to do this. I mean, I thought we were cool through NATO. I thought we were cool through giving y'all guys military defense, protecting y'all from Russia. And this is how y'all do us? I mean, this is crazy.
Fair standard. You guys bring your wine products, you guys bring your meat products, your specialty artisanal products, and we consume them like crazy, and you guys are making all kinds of freaking money. We take your cars, your washing machines, German and Italian engineering, but then we can't sell our appliances in your market? It's complete nonsense.
Bullshit.
But anyways, it seems like it's happening. Markets are opening up. They don't have a choice. They have no leverage. And that, I think, is the genius of this Trump play. You know, we've seen tariffs in the past, but for the most part, it happens between two countries. It's been very specific, very targeted. The genius of this Trump play is tariffs on everyone. And it's created a frenzy. It's created an environment where these foreign nations around the globe have to act fast. And if they don't act fast, they're going to get left behind. You know, I think it's less of a trade war and more of a strategic chokehold. Donald Trump has created urgency. And now we've got so many countries all jumping, trying to make a deal. We got the UK, we got Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, Israel, India, you name it.
I mean, bro, before the tariffs were enacted, India came through and was already trying to make their deals. Before the tariff was enacted, Japan and South Korea came through already making their deals. So, yeah, these tariffs, they worked. And I ain't gonna lie, the stock market kind of proves it. Like, shout out to the stock market. I mean, that Dow Jones looking mighty sexy right now. I ain't even gonna lie for that. I mean, it was looking even better when it was going down. I mean, if you'd have bought then and then bought during the dip, you made some money if you bought during that dip. I mean, if you want to go to the S&P 500, they're doing good as well. I mean, I thought y'all said Donald Trump was going to crash the market. Oh, well, how did that reasoning work out? How is that reasoning working out for y'all? Oh, all right, let's get right back to my man Trump.
Cut off the fingers of a man in Colorado. They cut off his fingers because he called the police looking for help. They said, "Did you call the police?" He said, "Yes, I did." Put your hand down, and they cut off the fingers. This is what they want to bring these people back now. And I want to thank the president of El Salvador for the job he's done, because that's the way it has to be done. And it's too bad. Yeah, please.
Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, they've been talking about tariffs for decades. How come when these Democrat elites want tariffs, everything's hunky-dory, but when President Trump wants tariffs, all hell breaks loose? Do you see this double standard?
I love this guy. Whoever the hell.
Oh, God, I like him too, though. He's speaking the truth right now. It's like, yeah, like, how come they want tariffs and nobody says that, oh, they're engaging in unfair tactics. Oh, they're ruining the relationships between countries. I mean, these other countries got tariffs and nobody talking about how they're ruining relationships. But we do it because when we do it, it's a problem. And I'll tell you why it's a problem. Because they know that we're the biggest consumer in the world. We consume, bro. We honestly, voluntarily subsidize the world through our, I'll be real with you, through our buying of their imports. Yeah, I mean, through the buying of their exports. That's the problem with America right now. It's like, and the problem with the world is that they put us in a position where we can threaten y'all to be like, hey, yo, we'll just put tariffs on y'all and make it harder to make the billions of dollars you guys were making off us before. Yeah, we're going to just make it harder on you guys. And they put themselves in that position because if they'd have had a healthier trade deal with us to where it's like, oh, no, what you mean? There's no bans on your products. If there's a trade deficit, then it's just off competition alone. But these trade deficits aren't built off competition. They're built off unfair trade policies.
Hell, that is. That's really nice. I appreciate that question. No, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, everybody knew you had to do it, but they never had the guts to do it. It does take guts. It even takes guts for our country to go through it. That's why I say be cool. They were saying about, see, just be cool. It's going to work out. Mm-hmm. It's going to work out, and it's working out. I can tell you, working out maybe faster than I thought. But I said it's going to take a little conditioning. It's a transition to. It's really, I think it's a transition to greatness. It's going to be greatness. Our country is going to be. There'll be nothing like it. And people investing in our country, they're going to do better than they've ever done before. We have more car manufacturers, Roger, coming into our country now. Speaking of cars, we've never seen anything like it. And they're coming in because of the election, but they're coming in because of the tariffs, because they don't want to pay 25 or 50 or whatever it may be. They don't want to pay that. They can't pay that. We had 3 cancellations in Mexico, building a plant. they're all coming into the United States. Canada, they're coming in from China. They're coming in from everywhere. And that's just cars. We have chip makers come. We're the biggest chip maker in the world from Taiwan coming in.
Guys, if you don't want to listen to Trump talk about this, about the importance of tariffs, well, let's go to one of y'all headrunners. Let's go to Nancy Pelosi. Yes, big money Pelosi. She used to be for the people, and then she turned for the corporations and then started inside trading. I mean, man. But yes, let's hear Nancy Pelosi talk about the problems with our trade.
Mr. Speaker, this issue of granting most favored nation status to China is a very important one for the American people. It is about nothing less than our economic future, our national security, and our democratic principles. As you know, the conflict in the House of Representatives and our disagreement on this issue.
And guys, we got about 400 plus of y'all in here. Appreciate the support, by the way. But go ahead and double tap that screen and like the video. Appreciate the support. And if you have any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreements, I'll be happy to read it out loud and engage with it. Just $2 and up. Appreciate the support.
Has centered around the issues of trade, proliferation, and human rights. That's why I'm so disappointed that we have so little time to debate this issue today, and I can only ask the Republican leadership of this House and all of those who are so eager to move this along on both sides of the aisle, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of the facts? Are you afraid of the New Year's, the 4th of July break, constituents who cannot afford to travel to Washington with businesses would have time to express their views to their members of Congress? Are you afraid of 100,000 young people in Golden Gate Park gathered together to support free Tibet? I wish our colleagues were here and not away to a funeral or without votes off of Capitol Hill, because the facts must be heard by them. Because today, members of Congress will be asked to set down a marker. How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo? As I mentioned,
and yes, the status quo since Nixon. So look, I'm not going to sit here and just pass it off all on the libs, the Dems. No, since Nixon, this has been a problem. Like it low-key started with the Republicans, the selling out of the middle class. This is why we're at where we're at. Continuously, we let China and other countries take our business, take our manufacturing, take our industries with no benefit to us. None. Well, besides really cheap goods.
Mentioned it's about jobs proliferation.
Wait, and how did that work out for us really though? Because last time I checked, these cheap goods didn't do anything for us because China was selling lead painted toys to our kids. Do we forget that? I mean, antibiotics in our honey. Like, it's not like this arrangement helped us in any way, shape, or form. I mean, aren't they kind of the reason COVID popped off? Like, allegedly? But we don't want to change this deal. Like, I don't know, man. It kind of sounds like the new Democrats of today is for the rich. And this is Nancy Pelosi back when the Democrats were for the people.
And human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now. I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure. It will be over $40 billion for 1996. Since the Tiananmen Square massacre, this figure has increased 1,000%, from $3.5 billion then to about $34 billion now. In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%.
And if anybody's wondering, well, Seth, like, so where are we now? Well, that's a good question, actually. I'll go ahead and tell you where we're at right now with them. So these are our top 5 trade deficits in the world. So of course, like I said, back in the day, what she said, like 36 million, my bad, 36 billion, and that was a problem. That was a problem. Where do you think we're at with 270 billion? 270 billion in a trade deficit. Mexico, 157 billion. But hey, they're right next to us. They're our neighbor and they're doing us like this. Vietnam, we already told you what guys are doing through Vietnam. The corporations are moving there, or China's shipping their products there to send into America. So that's why we got a crazy trade deficit with Vietnam and Ireland. Like I said, I blame mainly, well, the pharmaceutical companies. In Germany, well, like I said, you know, cars and all that good stuff. I mean, hey, man, I guess we do love German engineering. I'll give them that. I'll give them that. But yeah, now you kind of see why we're at where we're at.
Whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal?
Bro,
on exports? China only.
I want you to hear what that lady just said. Just said, bro.
Tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%.
2%.
Whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? On exports.
Hey, now she using reciprocal though. I'm crying. Yo, so I guess Trump was a fan of Nancy Pelosi back in the days, looking like it. Like, bro, oh, where do you even get reciprocal tariffs? He got it from Nancy Pelosi, ironically. Bruh. So yeah, back in the day, 2% tariffs on all Chinese products. That was the average, bro. 35%. On every product that was even able to get in there. Here's the worst part about it. Only 2% of our exports even make it in there. So only 2% of our exports make it into China, and they're all tariffed at 35%. Like, is that fair? But guess what? It's not just China who does this. Other countries have something similar to this setup.
China only allows certain industries into China, of U.S. Industries into China, and therefore only 2% of U.S. exports are allowed into China. On the other hand, the U.S. allows China to flood our markets with a third of their exports, and that'll probably go over 40%. And it's limitless because we have not placed any restriction. In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all. Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade. The president in his statement.
And imagine how much it is today. I wouldn't be surprised if we're supplying these people like 100 million jobs. I would not be surprised. I mean, China's a big ass country with a lot of people, over 1 billion people. So I would not be surprised. Well, do they have 1 billion still? Well, I know, excuse me, but I know they got more than us. But yeah, so realizing that, like, why is everybody feeling so bad for China and the rest of the world when, like I said, it's kind of the same? And here's the thing. Like I said, it's probably 100 million jobs we supply them while they take jobs from us. We give jobs while they take. And that's why we kind of need to switch it around with some of these corporations, some of these countries. It's like, all right, bet we need to turn it back on y'all where the American economy looks appetizing enough to produce into where we're taking jobs from them. And now I know the language may not sound as good, but I mean, what the hell you think we did with Apple? When Apple bought $500 billion in investment here, well, we took it from China.
But China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade. The president in his statement requesting this special waiver said that China trade supports 170,000 jobs in the United States, 170,000 jobs, whereas our imports from China support 10 million jobs at least.
You're saying that 170,000 jobs are created in the United States by the China trade, but aren't there many more jobs that are lost in the United States?
Well, that's my point that I was getting to. I appreciate the gentleman for focusing on that. The fact is that U.S.-China trade.
Yeah, it's like 170,000. I mean, bro, that ain't shit to 10 million. I mean, if you said 170 million, I'd be like, hey, yo, clap it up. China, you my people. But when you talk about y'all, bro, getting 10 million off us, or only giving us 107, like, can you imagine that, guys? Imagine you giving 10 million to somebody, $10 million. Let's put it in dollars so you really can get it. $10 million to somebody and they only give you back $170,000. Could you imagine? Is that a fair deal?
Trade is a job loser. And one of the reasons that it is because well, first let me just make another point, and that is that our colleagues on the other side of this issue will say that trade with China, exports to China have increased 3 times in the last 10 years. They have. No. But they fail to mention that imports from China have increased 11 times, thereby leading to this huge trade deficit.
Yep. And let me go ahead and educate you guys on this argument here of, low wages. Do you guys understand that? Well, look, China gets low wages, one, because I ain't gonna lie, they just do their people dirty, and well, they kind of feed these corporations what they want. I mean, you already heard what China can do. They subsidize certain companies, bro. Not only that, but they'll make sure certain companies there can monopolize the market. We don't do that here in America. We really don't. And they make sure that their companies stay there because, well, they're a communist regime. They're kind of like a communist / oligarchy, since only 9 people run China. So with that being said, their billionaires can't really go outside their interests like our billionaires can or our corporations can. That's one thing China also takes advantage of. And through tariffs, we kind of stop the corporations that the liberals call oh so evil from doing that oh so evil thing that y'all complain about. But let's go back on the argument of these low wages. Do you understand that if that was a valid argument, then Apple would have never came over here? Apple was making an iPhone out there for $14. So why would they move here if there was not a way we can beat that? And there is. Now, and this is how we beat it. I mean, this is how we're beating it now through Trump's plan. Because if we lower corporate tax, lower these regulations, and let these companies take in more money, but the government takes less money from them, then we can keep wages all good because they keep their profit. That's the only way to keep our wages where they're at. Because if the government takes, which China's doing, the government's taking, that means the people's wages can't also be the same. You hear what I'm saying? Because the government takes a lot in China, the people's wages are lowered. Because our government takes a lot from these companies, our wages are lowered. We can't have it both ways. These companies have to take less from these corporations. I'm sorry, the government has to take less from these corporations in order for American wages to either stay the same or raise. Which means that, yes, if Apple comes over here, they're not going to be paying nobody 15 cents or to $1 an hour. Like, come on now, chill out.
The gentleman has control of his time, and I really have a limited.
And at 135%, I mean, there's no amount of child labor that we can't beat.
Just
if I have
one
time
brief
at the
question
end,
about your chart.
I will at the end of my remarks. I promise, Mr. Chairman. And the reason it's a job loser are for several other reasons. There is an important issue that we're all familiar with, and the piracy of our intellectual property. It remains to be seen if China will honor the commitment it has made in the recent agreement. It hasn't honored the memorandums of understanding or last year's agreement. And indeed, there's a report in the press yesterday that one of the PLA, People's Liberation Army factories has resumed production. But anyway, the other issue, in addition, if intellectual property is a $2 billion, $3 billion loss, technology transfer is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. If you want to sell to China, your products into China, the Chinese insist that you open a factory there. They misappropriate your technology, open factories.
And if you don't, they'll take your technology, they'll make it themselves, they'll make it cheaper than you ever could, and then they'll sell it around the world to kick you out the global market. I mean, savage. It is pretty damn savage, but it's smart and cunning.
Of their own, and then say to you, now we want to see your plan for export. That's as simply as I can say it briefly. But the fact is, this isn't about products made in America. The Chinese want American products that are made in China. And the most serious of these transfers of technology are in the airline industry, where Boeing tail sections of the Boeing 737s were mostly made in Wichita, Kansas. Now they are made in Shen province, where workers make $50 a month. And they had the transfer of the technology and the transfer of the jobs has taken place.
And bro, here's the worst part, but we had these guys who are taking care of their families off those jobs. We had these men taking care of their families off those jobs, and then they lose their jobs. They're now effed up, and we go send them to Chinese workers who make $50 a month. I mean, damn. Maybe if we put that tariff on them and we made it to where, well, even if you sell your product in here, it's gonna be like you're paying these guys the same thing we're paying our workers. We can make tariffs fix that. And that's what tariffs do. I mean, when you put 137% on Chinese products, like I said, ain't no amount of child labor or low wage worker that's going to help that price. Unless they want to start making this shit for free.
General Motors, Ford, they're all fighting to get in to build factories there so they can make parts there. They want MFN so they can get those parts back into the United States. So we are...
Guys, you have any questions, comments, disagreements? I'll be happy to read it out loud and engage with it. Just $2 and up. And thank you for supporting the stream. All right, guys, let's keep it going. Now, let's make sure to double tap that screen and like the video.
Exporting not low-tech jobs and textile jobs. We're exporting our technology. Now, if you take a country the size of China with the very cheap, and in some instances, slave labor, the lack of market access, the rip-off of our intellectual property, the transfer of technology, a country that is not willing to play by the rules in any respect in this trade relationship, you have a serious threat not only to our relationship, but to the industrialized world. And if there's one message that I want our colleagues to understand today and our constituents is that on this day, your member of Congress could have drawn the line to say to the President of the United States, do something about this U.S.-China trade relationship that is a job loser for the United States. And this brings us to the point that others have said, well, we can't isolate China. Do you think for 1 minute that with 10 million jobs at least and $35 billion and be over $40 billion this year in a trade surplus, all those billions of dollars in surplus, that the Chinese are going to walk away? Where are they going to take 35 to 40% of their exports? Who's going to buy them? This is what sustains the regime, the funding and the jobs. Yep. They can't have those people out of work. They have to be at work.
I mean, as much as we don't deal with China, I mean, as much as we don't like the Chinese government, we sure do fund the Chinese government. And think about that. As much as we don't like communism and, oligarchies, well, we're funding one through our trade.
Exporting to the United States. And so we have a situation where, again, I say, human rights, while others think they shouldn't be linked, I think they're linked because we all agree. China will be large, it will be powerful. It's in our interest that they be free. And for those who say that economic reform will lead to political reform, I reject that notion of trickle-down liberty. It hasn't worked.
Mr. Speaker,
One.
I ask this gentlelady have 2 additional minutes.
We not trickle down economics, but trickle down liberty. Huh.
This gentlewoman is recognized for 2 minutes.
I reject that notion of trickle-down liberty. In fact, even by the this Clinton administration's own country report on China, it has said that economic reform, and the quote is in my full statement, has not led to political reform because there hasn't been, the government has not allowed that to happen. And I would like to quote from a scholar, and I'll read from this. David Schambao, editor of China Quarterly, the leading academic journal on Chinese affairs, recently wrote, "Let us not deceive ourselves. China's political system remains authoritarian and repressive. In fact, it has become significantly more so in recent years. The Chinese regime is one of the worst abusers of human rights and basic freedoms. It maintains itself in power, in part through intimidation and coercion of the population."
And I will stand on this point that, bro, these people control their rich. They control their elite class. We don't. So when I tell you that China does everything they can to make sure their elite class work in the interest of China, like, what was it? I forgot the billionaire's name, but bro, there's a billionaire that spoke out against the Chinese government, and we haven't heard from bro since. I mean, yeah, somebody check up on bro. We haven't heard from him since.
It tolerates no opposition. The third issue of concern is proliferation, the most dangerous issue of all. Both in the Bush administration and in the Clinton administration, our administrations have waived sanctions over and over for the proliferation of nuclear and missile technology to Pakistan and nuclear, missile, chemical and biological technology to Iran, and all of the above to other rogue states. How dangerous does the transfer of technology have to be, my colleagues, to stop you from putting your seal of approval on this policy? We're not legislating here today. The president will call the shot on most favored nation status. But what we are doing is putting our name down in support of the status quo or calling out for change. As we approach our own 4th of July, I hope that members in this body will remember others who have studied the words of our founding fathers, who are inspired by them, who quote those words in Tiananmen Square.
Man, our founding fathers would be like, bro, what the hell y'all doing? I mean, we had tariffs set up the founding fathers had tariffs set up all over the place. They said, bro, you're not even going to sell into the American economy if you're not paying. You got to pay to play. That's used to be, well, the economic way of our trade policy with the world back, with the forefathers. I don't know why that went away, but well, they say due to World War and them introducing the income tax, that's really where it came from. But I'm telling you this right now, though, it's like if we all knew that this was what's gonna come with, it's like, oh, us paying an income tax, and now you're out here sending out jobs. I mean, what sense did that make? If you guys are gonna put us on an income tax, like, what sense would that make getting rid of American income? I did not know what the plan was with that.
And are arrested for doing so. Particularly Wei Jincheng, who is the father of the democracy movement in China, who is in jail for his second 14-year term because he has spoken out for freedom. My dear colleagues, today you will have a chance to make the world safer, the political climate freer, and the trade fairer. I urge you to vote no on MFN to China.
Like I said, though, y'all have such a disagreement with it, but back in the day, I mean, Democrats was all aligned with it. I mean, shout out Nancy Pelosi, well, 1996 Pelosi.
Spending $3 billion.
We're gonna call that vintage Pelosi right there. Before the inside trading.
$1 billion to build plants, and mostly a big plant. This is a hell of a plant when you spend the kind of money that they're going to go $200 to $300 billion, not million. You'd say million would be the right number. It's not $200 to $300 billion. $1 billion. Think of that. $300 billion. If you look at Apple is going to spend $500 billion building a plant. They wouldn't be doing that if I didn't do this. They'd just keep building them in China. And that's unsustainable. It's not a pleasant thing to do, but I appreciate the question. And, interestingly, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, Crazy Nancy, they've wanted to do this for years, but they never had a president that had the guts to do it, because it does take guts, believe me.
Yeah, as I just showed you.
Was it the bond markets that persuaded you to reverse course?
I was watching the bond market. The bond market is very tricky. I was watching it, but if you look at it now, it's beautiful. The bond market right now is beautiful. But yeah, I saw last night where people were getting a little queasy. I think everything had, the big move wasn't what I did today. The big move was what I did on Liberation Day. We had Liberation Day in America. We're liberated from all of the horrible deals that were made, all of the horrible trade deals that were made. And I was helped by people just like this, senator, congressman, and friends, right? And we had great help in the Senate. Our Republican senators have been amazing. They stood tall. And likewise in the House. And John Thune has done an amazing job. Barrasso has done an amazing job. I can't think of a senator, really. We had tremendous support. We got a bill passed the other day with almost unanimous support in the Senate. And I think we're going to get that in the House, too. And I have to tell you that Mike Johnson is a great speaker. He's done a fantastic job. We had a majority of 1. Now we have a majority of 7. And you don't realize how big 7 is until you have a majority of 1. 7 sounds like so much. But we're doing well. But Mike Johnson and John Thune have done a really great job.
Mr. President, was anyone who influenced your decision? Did you speak with anyone, Jamie Dimon? Did you speak with anyone?
Well, I watched Jamie Dimon on Maria Bartiromo's show this morning, and he was very good. He said that actually made the statement to effect that something had to be done with the tariffs and trade. He said that. He said, look, at some point, but he said something has to be done with tariffs and trade. He understood it. He's very smart and very a genius financially. He's done a fantastic job at the bank. And he knows that. Everybody knows that.
I mean, everybody knows that. Even the Dems will tell you that. Yeah, I mean, they may disagree with what Trump is doing, but they honestly agree with the mission is. They agree with the mission. They're like, you're right. We do got low key take back this trading, take back this whole trade ordeal from China. Need to take back well, I'm being honest with you, the billions of dollars, the $200 billion that we put into China. We need to get that back. We need to try to find a way to put at least half of it back in America. I'm not saying that we can put the whole thing in, but with some fair trade policies, we can at least reduce it. I'm not saying that we're going to go ahead and reduce all trade deficits, but we're at least going to break even, or we're going to reduce those deficits because we're at least selling products into there too now without no trade bans or regulations.
Anybody that's even a little bit smart knows it. It wasn't sustainable what was happening. Somebody had to pull the trigger. I was willing to pull the trigger. This should have been done long ago. Just like Biden should have stopped the border long ago. I mean, allowed 21 million people plus into our country, many of whom should never have been allowed out of prisons and jails. They came out of prisons and jails from all over the world. And now we're getting them out, bringing them back to their countries. But it's should have never been done. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sir, would you consider exempting some U.S. companies, maybe some larger companies who have been hit hard in the markets the last few days during this 90 days?
As time goes by, we're going to take a look at it. There are some that have been hard. There are some that, by the nature of the company, get hit a little bit harder, and we'll take a look at that. Yeah. Just instinctively, more than anything else. I mean, you almost can't take a pencil to paper. It's really more of an instinct, I think, than anything else.
Credibility, Mike, because you said that these tariffs would go in effect on Monday. You said no pause. Today there is a pause. So how can people believe your word today?
It's not a question of that. You have to have flexibility. I could say, here's a wall, and I'm going to go through that wall. I'm going to go through it no matter what, and keep going, and you can't go through the wall. Sometimes you have to be able to go under the wall, around the wall, or over the wall. These guys know that better than anybody, right? You got to go around them sometimes. You're not going to go through them. So I consider, I think in financial markets, because they change. Look how much it changed today. We went from, pretty moderate today, but over the last few days, it looked pretty glum to, I guess they say it was the biggest day in financial history. That's a pretty big change. And I think the word would be flexible. You have to be flexible, like he's asking the question.
I mean, yeah, 3,000 jump. We've experienced these things before, but let's be honest. Like I said, a lot of people want to be dishonest about what's going on in the market. Like I said, it went down for a little bit. Y'all was panicking. People were saying, oh, it never went down this low. I mean, yeah, it has. Yes, it definitely has. There was times we was up here and then we fell all the way down here. With no complaints from nobody. With no complaints. Remember, 28, lowest. And the crazy thing is, like, the only time it was this low was, COVID. It was like, yeah, that COVID time. So, no COVID going on, and Biden effed up this hard. But y'all were crying about what? This little, let me just go here to the day span. You guys were crying about this. You guys are crying about this 37 right here. The 37. You guys, this is what you were causing mass hysteria about. Remember this, liberals. And then everything just skyrockets up. It just shoots up. And we've just been good ever since. Well, it's how I'm hoping things work out. Yeah, we'll see. But hey, so far so good. And I mean, bro, it's kind of funny because we was telling y'all, man, like, goddamn, wait a couple months. But really, we should have been saying wait a couple days. Or really hours.
About some companies through no fault of theirs, they happen to be in an industry that is more affected by these things than others. You have to be able to show a little flexibility. And I'm able to do that. I'm going to say hello to these champions because they are great champions. I got to say hello.
All right, now let's get into it. What was it? I think it was Scott Bassett and Secretary Leavitt.
Hearing from Caroline Leavitt and the Treasury Secretary on the news of President Trump authorizing the 90-day pause.
On China, the tariff on China will now go up to 125% because China imprudently decided to retaliate against the United States. And as I said at the podium yesterday, when you punch at the United States of America, President Trump is going to punch back harder. In that same vein, we have had more than 75 countries from around the world reach out to President Trump and his team here at the White House to negotiate better trade deals for the American worker. We have been overwhelmed with the amount of requests from countries around the world. I'll let the Secretary speak to that. We will continue with the tailor-made negotiations that I spoke about yesterday. In the meantime, there will be a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs as these negotiations are ongoing, and the tariff level will be.
And you see, the only reason why we paused the tariffs because these guys are playing according to, well, they're playing into our hand. Yes, everything is going according to plan, and these countries are playing into our hand. Only reason we stopped the tariffs because these guys realized the economic strain it was going to put on them, and they finally came to negotiate. That's why she said, yeah, we put a pause on it as a low-key, a form of goodwill. It's like, all right, look, we know these tariffs are going to hurt y'all. We're going to go ahead and pause them, and we're going to negotiate some good trade policies. And if we can't, then guess what? We're going to turn the tariffs back on them. Like I said, it's like a switch we can flip on and on. Well, I'm sorry, but on and off, like just boom, 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 depending on how they're acting.
Brought down to a universal 10% tariff. The Secretary here has been a huge part of the President's trade team, of course, and will continue to lead these negotiations moving forward to look out for the American worker, which is always President Trump's goal. So I'll kick it over to our great Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent.
Good, thank you. And we saw the successful negotiating strategy that President Trump implemented a week ago today. It has brought more than 75 countries forward to negotiate. It took great courage for him to stay the course until this moment. And what we have ended up with here, as I told everyone a week ago.
I'm not even gonna lie, bro. That man Trump stood in the fire. That boy stood in the fire the entire time. Everybody was saying this is a bad idea. Everybody said that the market will continue to tank. And that man just stood there with just full confidence and be like, no, I know what I'm doing is right. Don't worry, everything's going to be okay. That took real confidence. I ain't gonna lie, a lot of leaders would have backtracked and been like, yep, I'm facing too much public backlash. I'm going to lift them with no results. I feel like there would have been a lot of leaders, a lot of presidents who would have done that, and Loki took it right back just because of the public outrage. He stood firm. You got to respect it.
In this very spot.
I mean, just for them to be outraged and keep saying that the market is going to keep going down and it goes right back up. I mean, man, I mean, shout out to the Liz, man. Y'all sure do know how to spin something.
Do not retaliate and you will be rewarded. So every country in the world who wants to come and negotiate, we are willing to hear you. We're going to go down to a 10% baseline tariff for them. And China will be raised to 125 due to their insistence on escalation.
Secretary, thank you for doing this. Let me ask you three quick things, if I could. For the sake of clarity, because the markets are open and they're wondering. First of all, Mexico and China, are they part of this 10% universal? Mexico and Canada, are they part of the 10%?
Yes.
Okay. Second, given then that you have the rest of the world essentially calling it, it's not China, is this now just all about China?
Well, it's about bad actors, and what we will see is some of the very early.
I mean, China is the most egregious bad actor. They're the worst one, but they're not the only one.
Countries are China's neighbors. That we're going to see. I'm seeing Vietnam today. Japan's at the front of the queue. South Korea, India. So.
And shout out to my man Daniel Castro. Appreciate the support, brother. He said, "Fuck emotions, get monies, man." I love it, man. MOE, man. MOE. Shout out to my man Castro. No, for real. Hey, like I said, that's why you can't be so emotional when you get into the market. And that's funny how everybody was talking like they were traders and I lost this, I lost that. I'm like, bro, for a guy that's in the market, you are really emotional. Like, I think that was the number one thing traders say. You can't be so emotional when you're playing in the market. You just can't see money going down and you just start having a heart attack. Like, chill out.
Well, we will see. And as I've repeatedly said, and President,
like, man, I ain't gonna lie. You make decisions out of fear, and that's the stupid decisions every time. Every time you make a decision out of fear, it was a stupid decision. Am I wrong?
Trump has been saying it for years. China is the most imbalanced economy in the history of the modern world, and they are the biggest source of the U.S. trade problems. And indeed, they are problems for the rest of the world, because what we've seen is that as the U.S. announced the tariff wall last week, many of those goods have already started flooding into Europe.
So as you see it now, this trade war is China versus the rest of the world.
Well, I'm not calling it a trade war, but I'm saying that China has escalated, and President Trump responded very courageously to that, and we are going to work on a solution with our trading partners.
If I could just, excuse me, Raquel, if I could just add to what the secretary said. Many of you in the media clearly missed the art of the deal. You clearly failed to see what President Trump is doing here.
Man.
You tried to say that the rest of the world would be moved closer to China when in fact we've seen the opposite effect.
The fact that y'all framed that was actually kind of stupid. I'm not even gonna lie. If you really thought the whole world was gonna go to China,
stupid.
Bro, China only sells, they don't buy. Nancy Pelosi low-key proved that, bro. She's like, yo, China only takes in 2% of our products and it's tariffed at 35%. So what's being bought in China? And they do the same thing to everybody else. So the fact that the EU and Canada thought that they were going to be able to get into China, really, they never thought that. They were just fear-mongering on it. And it's kind of funny how y'all bought it without really knowing China's economy. I'm like, come on now. We all know China makes money off their exports. We all know that. So why are y'all thinking that this country that's ran off solely producing, solely sending products out is all of a sudden just going to start bringing products in, start buying products when they haven't done that in the last 40 years? Like, really now? Oh, so this is going to change actions overnight? Really?
World is calling the United States of America, not China, because they need our markets, they need our consumers, and they need this president in the Oval Office to talk to them. And that's exactly why more than 75 countries have called, because the United States of America is the best place in the world to do business. And as the president has shown great courage, as the secretary has said, in choosing to retaliate against China even higher. Elena, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Treasury Secretary Bassett. Can you explain more of the decision making on what feels like a reversal here? I think just these went into effect less than 15 hours ago, these tariffs. Why the pause now? What led to that?
No, again, President Trump created maximum negotiating leverage for himself, and which tariffs went into effect 15 hours ago. The ones that we have lowered went into effect a week ago. They were announced a week ago, and we've just been overwhelmed by the response from mostly our allies who want to come and negotiate in good faith. So we are expecting them to come with their best deal. As I said a week ago today, don't retaliate, hold your ground, let's see what happens. And China, they kept escalating, and now they have 125% tariffs that will be effective immediately.
Mr. Secretary,
Go ahead.
And the funny thing is, we're kind of making China look like the odd man out. It's like, okay, cool. We'll go ahead and drop the tariffs on the rest of the world, and we'll just keep them on you. So we're going to let the world know how wild y'all are. Like, oh, so everybody else is cool with doing fair trade, but you guys, doesn't that say a lot about China? We're making them to be the odd man out, and then it's a bit of a strategy now that they're looking at everybody and they're like, hey, now, China, y'all on your own with this one. It's like Vietnamese look at China like, y'all on your own, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Taiwan got their hands raised up like y'all on your own. Japan, y'all on your own. South Korea looking at China, same thing. Look with their hands behind their back, just whistling along like, hey, bro, you got it. You want to keep fighting with America? It's on you, brother.
Secretary, thanks so much for doing this. The 90-day pause when there were some tariffs, is that because of the whiplash that we've been seeing across the financial markets? How much was, what we saw in the stock markets, a part of this decision?
No, it's because because of the large number of inbounds. We've had more than 75 countries contact us, and I imagine after today there will be more. So it is just a processing problem. Each one of these solutions is going to be bespoke. It is going to take some time, and President Trump wants to be personally involved. So that's why we're getting the 90-day pause.
Clarification, Mr. Secretary, there was a tweet that you and Secretary left at the Oval Office with the president talking about this. Can you talk about what that conversation was like and what you guys said to one another that was
that look, it's all the president's decision, and that the president had the a level.
This man Scott Bassett was like a secret weapon of the Trump administration. Not even gonna lie. One, he can explain his points pretty damn well, and he's pretty good in front of the press. So I ain't even gonna lie. This like him and Levitt. Yeah, this is exactly what Trump needed. They're like one of the secret weapons of Trump administration.